Good afternoon, folks. It is 2 p.m. here on your Friday, and we are tracking a weather impact alert for all of Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina for the remainder of the day today, with a strong cold front that's inbound from the north and west. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandajis. The next 20 minutes or so, we are going to go through all of our threats that are on the table, and currently it's all severe hazards. Heavy rain, small hail, maybe some large hail, isolated tornado, and gusty damaging wind threat out there with the arrival of that front. Now, timing of it will be a little bit later on, so we've got a lot of lead time to kind of watch how things unfold and evolve off to our west, and as it crosses the I-95 corridor and pushes into our western zones, probably around that evening commute. I think our storm window will be around 5 p.m. to the west, through around 11 o'clock or so closer to the coastline to the east. And then that moves out of here. We see some quieter weather before another round of some showers and storms gets here for Saturday afternoon. And I promise after that, we're going to be dry for a while. It has been an extremely wet week here across Hampton Roads with several rounds of rain, and some of which was heavy at times, including just earlier this morning. And if you've walked outside yet today, that rain from this morning and then the sunshine that emerged through the cloud cover is making it feel downright tropical, with high dew points and temperatures climbing into the 80s. Yeah, that's setting the stage for that severe threat later on today. Let's go right over to radar to kind of show you where we currently stand. Nothing going on out there at this time, which is good and bad at the same time. So we're seeing the sun breaking on through the cloud deck, cooking things up in the lower levels of the atmosphere, warming the ground. That's in turn warming the air. That air is rising, and we're starting to see instability increase across the area. Now, what I would like to see over the next hour or two is a little bit more of what you can kind of start to see the beginning stages of here. Let me back things up and show you the last hour. And you see these little tiny little popcorn showers that are beginning to develop from the southwest and move pretty quickly to the north and east. So that's already the first signs of the instability being driven by the daytime heating. Okay, we don't have a trigger out there yet. It's still well off to the west-northwest, and that's our cold front. That'll issue some large-scale lifting of the atmosphere and bring a more pronounced and widespread threat for more rain and, of course, the strong to severe thunderstorms along the actual line there. Out ahead of it here, if we see some more of this daytime heating-driven convection, that could work to help stabilize things a little bit more, increasing the cloud cover as well as, the rain-cooled air will stabilize things at least briefly. So if we see a little bit more of that, that could take away some of the initial energy for storms to use later on. If this is all we see, what's out there right now, and that remains the case for the next few hours, and this all falls apart, which kind of that's what it's trending to do. You see this one that's coming out of Hertford in Gates County, that's lifting through Coral Peak and moving to southern Chesapeake. Yeah, that's falling apart. So they're not really kind of maintaining their intensity there. And that could be a problem here, meaning that it's not going to really rob that much energy from the atmosphere over the next few hours. Bigger picture, though, you can kind of see the players on the field here, okay? You see the watch box to our west. That is a tornado watch that was just issued by the Storm Prediction Center and National Weather Service. This is for well west of I-95. And that watch, that tornado watch, is up until 8 o'clock tonight. So those areas will be impacted first. It's moving west to east. We'll likely see a watch issuance for our local area here in Hampton Roads probably over the next couple of hours. Will it be a tornado watch? It's a possibility, but more likely than not, we'll see a transition from a tornadic threat to the west to a damaging wind gust threat as the line that's going to be likely some discrete supercells transitions and condenses into a squall line, which would present more of a gusty damaging wind threat. More so a severe thunderstorm watch would likely be issued for that closer to the coastline here. But we'll see how things play out and evolve over the next couple of hours. There's our front pretty much hung up right along I-81, pretty much just due west of I-81, an area of low pressure that's actually becoming negatively tilted, and that is conducive for more intense thunderstorms here as it does so, and it lifts to the north and east. The closer we are to that center of low pressure, more likely the intense storms will develop closer there. The front moving all the way south and southwest of that area of low pressure, the cold front, draping all the way down south to Atlanta, where there's a separate severe thunderstorm watch up for that entire area. That includes good chunk of western North Carolina, western South Carolina, down into Georgia as well. And, of course, nothing farther east just yet. There will likely be a watch that's issued here in the next couple of hours. I do want to go back over to our local radar. And move a little bit farther to the west here as we get close to I-81. You can see there's actually a few storms that's already out there. And generally, these are moving up against the mountains and falling apart a little bit. But notice that some of these warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings right now, but you see the one over Bluefield, just to the west of Radford, has that red outline. And we've seen those numerous times here locally. And that is a severe thunderstorm warning with a tag on it for a possibility of a tornado. In fact, I put the data on it here, and you can see that tornado possible tag that's there listed under the threats, and that's a radar indicated possibility there with max wind gusts in that cell of 60 miles per hour. So that's just kind of an early look of what's heading in our general direction here as this moves generally to the east over the coming hours. Locally here right now, again, just a few isolated showers at this moment in time. Let's take another look at that tornado watch that was issued here well to our west. You can see it does not include anybody here in southeastern Virginia or northeastern North Carolina. In fact, you have to head well west of Richmond to get into that tornado watch until 8 p.m. But there was earlier, I don't see anything now about it. They probably took it off here, but there was there it is, a mesoscale discussion that was issued. And these come out from the Storm Prediction Center. And basically, this is a behind-the-scenes kind of conversation between the meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center, kind of detailing the threats that they think are going to propagate from this line as it builds farther to the east here. And they usually put out the discussion with a shaded-in area of where they're concerned, and they put a probability of if they'll issue a watch or not. So it's basically the chance of a watch being issued for these areas. And this one was up for the area that's now under the tornado watch. They put a 80% chance on that earlier when they were initially talking about issuing a watch, tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch. If you've been outside today, I mean, check out these dew points across the area. Look at these numbers. The upper 60s, 73 is the dew point right now out at Williamsburg. And when we've got that high amount of moisture content in the atmosphere, that's used as energy. So that cold front's going to dig in under that warm, humid air mass and force it to rise. The more humidity, the more moisture that's present in that air mass that's being forced to rise, the more intense the thunderstorm activity will likely be, the more intense the convection will be. So these dew points in the high 60s and low 70s, even mid 70s, look at Edenton, 74-degree dew point there right now. What are the actual air temperatures, though? Well, we have seen some breaks in the cloud cover, some sunshine. We have jumped into the 80s, 80 down to Edenton, 80 also down to Suffolk, 79 at Hampton, 77 out officially at the airport in Norfolk. So Storm Prediction Center has us under a level 2 threat for our entire area. Now, look what's lurking here just down to the southwest. It's now up to a level 3 threat down into Raleigh, over to Greensboro, including Charlotte, down the I-95 corridor through Fayetteville, and eventually down to Florence in South Carolina, level 3 threat there. What are the hazards that they're really concerned with? Well, check this out. We've got the hazard threat here for a tornado. This is up to 5% threat in the orange. So that does include farther to the north and west. That does include the peninsula, does include Smithfield, does include Williamsburg, Gloucester to Matthews, even up along the eastern shore. That tornado threat is present, but it's not exceptionally high. It's a 5% risk. And this really kind of highlights the thinking here is that storms that develop along this front will initially develop as discrete supercells. Those are rotating thunderstorms that have a little bit of a better chance of putting down a tornado. This will likely be more probable to our west, which is where we see that threat for a tornado there closer to I-95 and up along the I-81 corridor. As that line transitions and condenses into a more defined squall line, we'll see that threat transition over to a damaging wind threat, which you can see is also highlighted here. That includes the entire area. This is up to a 15% chance in the area in the dark blue, which encompasses most of our area. Well, we're under that level 3 threat that does jump to a 30% risk. That'd be winds in excess of 55 to 60 miles per hour, likely straight line winds along the actual squall line coming on in a little bit later. How about hail? Hail potential here pretty much mimics the same areas that are under that tornado threat. This is a 15% chance here of some large hail that would be quarter-sized or bigger, 1 inch in diameter or larger in the areas farther to the north and west along the I-95 corridor. Pretty much I-64 through the peninsula up towards Richmond have the possibility of seeing these cells. produce some relatively large hail. You remember just last week, we had a couple significant instances of large hail that moved through here in Southside that we saw up to golf ball-sized hail. Overall, the atmospheric conditions aren't as favorable as they were last week, but it's still a possibility if we get some of these supercells to develop. Again, here's a look at radar. A couple cells beginning to develop well west of Richmond, up by Charlottesville. All of these are non-severe in nature. Any severe weather you're going to find well back to the west along the actual cold front here. If I put it on here, you can see where that front is. Probably a little bit fast there. It's probably a little bit farther to the west, but it is in that general area providing that lift in the overall atmosphere. So I talked about all hazards being on the table here, all severe hazards. So biggest concern, I think, as we approach later afternoon into evening, again, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. here locally from west to east, I think the main thing we're going to have to watch will be damaging wind gusts, straight line winds in this Boeing line of thunderstorms. The hail threat's there. I think that's low for us. Still a possibility. Tornado threat edged a little bit higher. You saw that risk up to 5%. You may think 5%, that's nothing. It's not exceptionally high, but it's also not zero. And again, the threat is there for supercells to develop. Overall, the environmental conditions are favorable to promote storms to produce a tornado, produce some large hail, produce the damaging wind gusts, and of course, the widespread heavy rainfall. And on top of a saturated ground, after a week's worth of heavy rain, several inches have fallen this week across most of our area. That could promote the slightly enhanced risk of some flash flooding, street flooding, overwhelmed drainage basins, that sort of deal, standing water on roadways, and that coming on in right around the evening commute, possibly into the early evening hours as folks are heading out for Friday night plans. That could promote some traffic issues. So all hazards are on the table here. Nothing is particularly high, but the highest on the list, the highest priority would be some damaging wind gusts. Let's walk you through some models now. Let's start off with our in-house graph model. This is a high-resolution, short-range model. And this has been very good this year in terms of severe weather. But in this particular instance, it's run 4 times a day. It's been kind of flip-flopping with an intense line, a squall line coming on through with that severe threat, to it being more fractured and kind of splitting our area to the north and south. So this run here is going to be off of the early morning data, the 12Z run. What we're going to wait for, coming up around like 4:15 or so, it'll be printing, and that'll be the afternoon runs with new data coming on in. But this is going to be the 12Z run, the early morning data, showing, here we go. So showing right up through 5 o'clock. So our window opens at around 5 o'clock, closer to the I-95, okay? You see some cells there, and some of these indicated by this graph model are supercells, okay? You don't see a defined squall line. These are discrete supercells developing along and west of I-95, possibly producing that enhanced chance of some tornadoes to our west. Now watch what happens here as we move through time. We get through 7 o'clock, we approach sunset. Here we are at 8 o'clock. This is one of the runs of the graph model that doesn't show a really defined line of severe storms coming through our area. It's much more fractured. I think it's playing into the fact that it's thinking there's a little more cloud cover out there than there actually is. You go on through now, I mean, we're pretty clear. It's showing the cloud cover coming on in and almost putting the cap or putting the lid on a boiling pot of water. It kind of chokes it out almost. So we've got some storms coming on through here. Let me pull this up and actually show you what the previous run looked like on this. Let's go back in time here. Let's see, I'll go to the 6Z, which would have been the early morning, overnight run. And we'll jump ahead here, ready? So look at this. Look at the difference, okay? So this was the 6Z run. What I showed you previously was the 12Z. Let me switch it up. There's the 12Z. Look at the difference. Again, the earlier run here is older data. The newer run here is the newest data, obviously, and shows a fractured line, but such a difference over a 6-hour span of data collection, right? So the 6Z was much more intense, showing this line coming on through. Here we are, 7 o'clock, slamming most of Hampton roads. But we switched back over to the 12Z at the same time. That's what the model thinks it looks like. Much more fractured and isolated in terms of severe weather there. So the 18Z, we'll see what that shows as we get a little bit closer. So let me exit out of that and show you another model. The HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. This is another short-range high-res model. And this one looks a little bit better in terms of initialization. So what the models do is they take a snapshot of what they think the current atmospheric conditions are. And if you look at radar, what we were just looking at, so we look at that, and then we pull up radar. Kind of similar, right? It's a little bit over-enhanced in terms of the isolated downpours out in Southside, but it's pretty close. Okay, so a good initialization there means that it probably has a better solution going forward. If it's diagnosed, it has a good diagnosis, the prognosis is a little bit better going farther out in time. So let's jump out and go through later this afternoon. Let's jump ahead to 5 o'clock. Okay, so well to the west, seeing the line of thunderstorm supercells developing as you're in between I-85 and I-81 at this point, still west of Richmond. And then let's jump ahead to 6. Still a very significant line of thunderstorms, probably severe in nature, approaching I-85, still west of Richmond. Now, timing of it moving here. 8 o'clock, we could see some isolated strong storms there. Still looks like that line is fractured, so still supercells being a problem as we approach sunset there, according to the HRRR model that I'm showing you here. Let me show you this. No, I can't do that. Okay, I can't draw on it, but this area here out by Williamsburg and Isle of Wight over to Surrey, showing there the possibility of some supercells developing. And then notice as we drift farther to the east, past sunset now, we're seeing all these storms just kind of fall apart and fizzle. So HRRR shows our real window of time for strong to severe storms coming up and right up to around sunset, and then diminishing rather quickly after that as the front barrels on through. Quite a difference from what we were seeing with the HRRR. Let's go back through that. Here we are at sunset on the graph model, showing still some thunderstorms around. And then as we jump out to 9 o'clock, starting to see things wind down, and really by 11 o'clock, it's gone. Everything's gone. We turn breezy, skies clear out, and our severe threat gone. So these models kind of struggling a little bit with what's going on initially. So we're really going to be in a situation that we're going to be nowcasting here and watching how the radar evolves as we go through the rest of the afternoon. So we've got a few very isolated showers out here. This one that came out of Gates County. Let's go back and just show you the evolution of this storm over the last hour. You can see it was a little more intense as it moved towards the state line and then really beginning to fall apart, as are other cells that were trying to flare up out in Hertford and Gates counties in North Carolina as they push to the north and east. So atmosphere may be a little bit better capped right now than models are getting a hold of. So that's good news for a severe threat. That would lower the severe threat if a cap does hold for a little while longer here. Now, I do also want to highlight the possibility of some more severe weather tomorrow. That threat for tomorrow is a level 1 threat, but let me show you what the graph model is showing for that time frame. We'll start things off tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Beautiful start to our Saturday, by the way. Breezy, west wind, sunshine, low 60s. Not bad. Now, by midday, we're going to see another cold front arriving from the west, okay? So we've got some shower chances here by lunchtime. But as that front pushes on through, you see it igniting some storms. There's the possibility there of another damaging wind threat with some of these stronger cells if they do get going. And then once that's gone, it should be gone by sunset, we are in for a long stretch of much nicer weather. We deserve it after just a very unsettled stretch of weather this week. That severe threat from the Storm Prediction Center, level 1 threat of that 5-tiered system there for tomorrow for a damaging wind threat. Today's threat, as you saw, is much higher. We are at that level 2 threat across the entire area in yellow there, level 2 out of 5. So scattered severe weather is expected in the area in yellow. And down to the southwest, it's now up to a level 3 out of 5. That includes Rocky Mount to Raleigh, down to Fayetteville, Lumberton, over to Salisbury, Charlotte, Greensboro. Good chunk of central North Carolina. Doesn't quite make it into our area. So that's where they're thinking, the Storm Prediction Center's thinking, from far eastern Georgia up through central South Carolina into central southern North Carolina, where the best bet of some severe weather will of it taking place here over the short term. You can see that's where there's active watches at this time. So you have thunderstorm watch in the yellow polygon there in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. And then we've got the threat for some tornadoes, tornado watch in the purple box here that includes western portions of Virginia until 8 o'clock tonight. Again, Hampton Roads not currently under any sort of watch. We do expect that to be coming as we go through the next couple of hours. The Weather Service tends to issue mesoscale discussions before they put out a watch, and one was issued. This is old now, but this was what was issued earlier for what is now the tornado watch that's up for that same area that's highlighted in red. So we'll look for those first, and then eventually a watch will be issued for our area. Again, our window of time to watch for will be 5 p.m. west through around 11 o'clock, probably earlier than that, probably 10 o'clock. It'll be winding on down to the east right along the immediate coastline there. So that's going to be what's on the table for the next couple of hours. We'll be chiming in here on 13 News Now, plus streaming any watches once they're issued. You'll also see it on the TV side, scrolling on the bottom of your TV screen there. And, of course, when warnings are issued later on this evening, which we are expecting there to be at least a few, we will jump on here. Myself and meteorologist Evan Stewart will be tracking things all evening long. He'll be up next in about an hour for another update on things. We'll see if we do get a mesoscale discussion issued by the Storm Prediction Center, or maybe even a watch at that point as well. Until then, we'll wind things down on this stream, and we'll see you back here in just under an hour.